Hello everyone, this is Bob Martin, the RCSubGuy with the NautilusDryDocks.com, and we're back. It's August the 22nd, 2019. It's a beautiful sunny day here in southern Florida. It's good to see you guys. I'm glad that you could join me. 6 people within like 15 seconds. That's pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to the discussion today. I got a bunch of topics to go over. It feels like a lot has happened over the course of the last month, and I want to share it with you. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes to get all signed in there, and then we will delve deeply into the topics that we got queued up. Just as a reminder, if you have a specific topic or a question, something specific that you'd like me to cover during these live conversations, it's best to email me in advance, bob at rc-sub.com. The link for that is right on the homepage of my website, by the way, on NautilusDryDocks.com. And that way I can put some thought into the conversation before we have the live. But if you're here and something pops to mind and you want to pick my brain about my thoughts on it, then use the chat feature. I'll try and stay up with that so I can answer your questions as they come in. So, I think it's 7 o'clock. Let's get started. Again, thanks for joining me. I had some news on the medical front. I actually am going to end up having to have shoulder surgery. So, for those of you that care, it's going to take me out of the shop for a little bit. I'm queued up for October the 4th. I've got an impingement in my AC joint in my left shoulder there, so I'm going to have some arthroscopy. They're going to clean that all out, so that's super exciting. Amber alert. I really don't need that right in the middle of my conversation. A big thing coming up. If you can, and there's things that you need to do in advance, but Groton, Connecticut coming up in September 7th and 8th, there is a big sub fun run at the military base there. I'm going to be up there along with other major players in the RC sub world. We're going to be running our boats out there on the military base, sharing information, swapping war stories, hints, tricks, and all that kind of thing. So if you're in the area, go to my website, click on the forums link, and under the events section, they got all of the information about where it is, when it is, and how you get in. You cannot just show up. It is a military base. You need to be pre-cleared before you can get in. So I would love to see you guys out there so we can talk subs. And if you don't have one, it'd be a great chance to get some stick time on an RC submarine. I'm going to try and bring a couple small ones with me so that anybody who's there who doesn't have a boat can run one. Just don't break it. I'll beat you. Okay, what else we got queued up here? I have got some big updates to my website. If you guys have not been there recently, I kind of revamped it. I made things a little bit easier to navigate. All on the left-hand side, you got all your menus and everything right now. But the big thing, got a membership area now, so you can sign in, you can save all of your address information, your payment information, you can see all of your past orders. It is very cool. So if you want to go in there and just sign up, it'll just expedite things, make things much easier for you in the future. Part and parcel of that, I've already started something. It's kind of an exclusive club open for my customers, and I call it the Dive Tribe. And this is kind of reserved for people who really want to sink their teeth into the world of RC submarines, get additional incentives from me and the company in the way of coupons, advance notice of upcoming products, product reviews, lots of really good stuff. I'm going to have some exclusive Dive Tribe gear available only to these people. If you're interested, head on over. Right up on the top of the menu there is join the Dive Tribe. Go in there, check it all out for all of the information. I'm super excited about it. We've had a lot of people sign up so far. Thank you for your patronage. It goes a long way for a struggling small business owner to stay afloat. Not that that is a particularly good thing when you're in a submarine, but it helps. So, thank you very much. Another thing to note, it's going to shift this around so you're not like constantly staring at the same view all the time. The video page, I have completely revamped that. So now it actually has a very comprehensive table of contents for every single video that I've ever uploaded to YouTube. So there's almost 200 videos up there right now. It covers a vast range of topics, everything from, you know, hints and tricks to product reviews to build up walkthroughs, and some of my old ones even dealt with some of my like old car builds and that kind of thing. So if you're interested, head over to the video page, the video gallery. I think it's under the resources section on the website. Lots and lots and lots of videos in there, you know, like 100 hours of videos. You can get your fill of RC submarine goodness in there. It's interesting to see the evolution of my videos back from when we first started to where we're at right now. A little bit of a walk through time. Another update, I've been hooked up with as a distributor for a company called Power Vision. One thing that I've said over and over again, this hobby is a difficult one to break into. It is challenging to build the submarines. It's hard to get information on the submarines, and most of all, it's exceptionally expensive to buy the submarines. One thing that I like about this new distributorship from Power Vision is they actually have a couple of products, an ROV that's a tethered submarine. So this will be good for freshwater or saltwater, and it's got full HD video, and you can dive down under the water, check out and see what's underneath there. And if you get the upgraded version, it's actually got bait release and the ability to like fish for fish. So it's pretty cool, and at the end of the day, it's actually not exceptionally expensive. It's cheaper than an RC submarine. It's a ton of fun, but what I really am excited about this for is it's a supplemental craft for your submarine. So if you've got a fleet, you know, the Power Ray or the Power Dolphin could be a really cool product to scope out the pond before you throw your boat in there, or you know, heaven forbid, if you've lost your boat, this would be a great way to go in there and find it. So check it out. That's in the drones and ROV section of my website. Also got an aerial drone in there. Super cheap. It's like 500 bucks. Pretty awesome. You can shoot some pretty amazing video of your submarines in action, at least while they're on the surface. So another big update for the Nautilus dry docks. I've been busy. I am bringing in, by the way, some demo products for that, and I'll be doing a full review of those so you can check it out. And if I get them in time, I'll be bringing them up to Groton, so get some video of those things too. Now, let's talk about project update. Switch you around here. One of my workbenches. So as you can see here, I've got a mess of cylinders, and in the background you can see what they're for. This is the infamous 30th scale Type 21 RC submarine project I have been working on for way too long. Something that I just finished up is a massive bow thruster for this boat. So if we take a look at this, we've got a big inlets and outlets, and if you can see that in there, we got a big brass prop in there. It's like, you know, 1.25 inches diameter. It's actually 43 millimeters exactly. But I've got this set up so, you know, unlike some like the Roby bow thrusters that kind of use a paddle that sweeps water back and forth, this is a dedicated propeller that's shrouded that'll push a ton of water in and out, which is needed because this boat, as you can see, is absolutely massive. It's like almost 9 feet long, it's going to need to have some pretty serious thrust to get it turning about its axis. So that kind of brings us over here, and I'll show you the cylinder. This is all custom work. I've used bits and pieces of a bunch of different modules. The main parts is from an OTW dive module that I had heavily modified. The ballast system has been completely redone. Question from Martin, my own design bow thruster? Yes, that's my own design bow thruster. So this is going to be the forward section. And in the front there, we've got bow plane retract, torpedo door servo outputs. We've got a peristaltic pump that is going to be utilized to extend and retract the retracting bow planes and the operational periscopes. And then this big motor up in the front is going to be driving the bow thruster. And in the back, we have twin motors for the the main drive props on the back, rear planes, and rudder outputs. And we've got an air pump in here. And we've also got a subsystem. So the way that this basically works, these are the ballast tanks. Set this like right there so you can kind of see how they sit. So the solenoid on the top pops open. And this is a big solenoid. It'll drain the whole tank in about 28 seconds. And then to purge the water from the ballast tank, you use this air pump, which is going to be drawing air from the surface through the tower. Now, if you are too low for that, you can use this gas subsystem. So this is the reservoir for the liquid air and the solenoid, and this will blow the air into the line that goes in, and that'll allow the entire model to get back up to periscope depth, draw air out from the surface. So this has been a ton of work. To be brutally honest with you, this whole project has been nothing but scratch building, left, right, and center. And every time you do that, everything you do is prototype. And so it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's been a ton of work. I will be very happy when this thing is out of my shop, which is supposed to be hopefully by the end of September. So there you go. You heard it from me. Other things we've got on the bench here. Look at that. It's a little German 212. This is an Engel 212 kit. Picked up from somebody. This is my first time seeing it. I do not have it cracked open, and I'm not going to attempt to do that one-handed. But I will be doing a full review and a video on this boat once I get it operational. It just needs to be trimmed out, basically. Very cool boat and a really nice size. It's about, I'm going to guess, maybe 30 inches in overall length, something like that. I've tested everything is functional. I've just got to trim it out. Let me jump back into the chats there. Unrelated, can a stock 3.5 inch cylinder run a 4S? Will I overload the BLM? So the BLMs are designed for 3S lipos. I'm not sure. Actually, I am pretty sure that it does not support 4S. So BLM will probably not support 4S. I can look into that and double check. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, this is lipo talk. It's talking about basically like cells. 3S is like 11.1 volts, so 4S you'll be at 14 point some odd volts. People will do that to get some additional speed out of a brushed motor. But what the BLM does, the battery and link monitor, that's a fail-safe device, and I've got a video of that if you go back and check on it. It monitors the voltage coming out of the cells, and if that gets too low, it'll automatically blow ballast in case you're submerged and your battery runs out. So in answer to your question, I don't believe that the BLM would be compatible with a 4S system. David wants to know if I'm familiar with the mini SubDog sub. Not familiar with it, never heard of it, I'm sorry. Wish I could tell you more. Have I yet to test Maximus model bow? So Eric obviously is interested because I think he walked away with the one that I donated at the recent sub-regatta for Carmel, Indiana. So the Maximus model bow puts together conversion systems for plastic models, and they're very well engineered. I have not, as of yet, put one together and tested it and done a full comprehensive evaluation of it. I got that kit. It was as part of a package deal that I got on another deal, and I just didn't have time to fully evaluate it, and so I donated it. Wish I could tell you more, but have not had the opportunity to try. I am now in my storage room, and if we switch this around, you can see some of my 3D printers. I got a big MakerBot Z18 right there. That's an industrial 3D printer for big projects. It's got like an 18-inch build volume vertically. This little Dremel is the one it's the workhorse I've been doing most of my prints with. It's printing a little basil for a Nautilus kit right now for a customer of mine. But speaking of 3D prints, and Eric, you'll be exceptionally interested in this. And this is kind of a mess, but see if you recognize any of these bits and pieces sitting on the floor. So for those of you that can't see it, let's see if we can put the puzzle together so it looks a little bit more like what it should. This was all 3D printed on my little printer in sections. This is a British Astute class submarine in 1/96th scale, and I've got it all set up so that it should be a very easy build for people. And the idea behind this is that I'm going to offer the files for people that would like to 3D print their own submarine. So I did all of this CAD work, and I am not an expert, by the way. I dabble. But this still turned out pretty cool. It'll go together easy, and I'm going to do a full assembly video on this so that you can follow through the instructions from front to back, not only to put the hull together, but to install the cylinder and get it ready for the water. Just show you some of the pretty cool things that came out here. If I can get this out. This little impeller turned out really cool. You dropped it. So yeah, anyhow, that'll be coming up. You'll be able to buy 3D files. There's a question in there. So Eric, no, that's not a waterline. Oh, it is a waterline cut. Yes, it is cut at the waterline. I believe somebody, to remain unnamed, requested that, and it makes sense. In 96 scale, that leaves exactly a 3-inch opening, which means you can drop a 3-inch subdriver right in there. Someone asked if I'm going to be producing my own line of German fleet boats. As it stands right now, I do not have any molds for anything like that. I have a lot of Russian boats, some British boats. I just got a 1/100th Los Angeles that I'm laying up right now. So as of right now, no. Let's look at some of the other stuff in here. That's why I brought you in here. Look at that thing. What the heck is a boat doing in here? If you're interested in this, I've got a video on this as well. There's a bit of a story behind it. It's a beautiful boat. It's an award-winning boat built by a former dentist, and if you look close, you can actually see a tooth on the smokestack. right there. But I got this thing for free. I drove up to a place just south of Orlando, and I picked it up. But I'm going to be weathering the heck out of it. I'll do a video on that too, just for those people who are interested in boats as well as subs. It's my first RC boat. It'll be fun and exciting. It's going to have operational smokestack, working sound, and all sorts of fun stuff. Hiding behind there. Oh, that's my big Nautilus. And that's spoken for, that's sold. And yes, that is an OTW Seehund in 1/9 scale, and that's sold too. I just need to finish trimming it out and installing the OTW dive module. That's a beautiful boat, and it's much bigger than it looks. Like it's like 4.5 feet long. It's a bit of a beastly boat. I think somebody said they got late to the game. Yeah, that British Astute Submarine files will be available for download, so you can print all on your own. All right, back into the shop. I'll show you one more project before we start talking shop. This is from a friend. Boy, I've got like boats and subs and planes and all sorts of stuff in here, don't I? This is an F4, and it's a kit, and he's got it all like upgraded, and it's all sorts of crazy. I don't know anything about planes, but apparently it's going to be super fast and super powerful. I did a weathering job on it, just a real subtle one. Gave it some streaking and a little bit of weathering, and I chipped up the leading edge of the wings a little bit, just to make it more realistic. Yeah, I think this is a Freewing. There you go. Somebody knows their planes too. All right. That was a lot of talking about my projects and nothing about what people have asked me to talk about. All right. First inquiry that came in via email. That was from Maury in Iowa, and he wanted to talk about chlorine. Chlorine pools, running your boats in chlorine, and the different things that you need to think about when you operate your boat in swimming pools. So, swimming pools offer some huge advantages over ponds and lakes. First of all, you know exactly what's in it. It's going to have a smooth bottom, smooth sides. You can see everything. If it goes down to the bottom, you're going to be able to see it the whole time. It's not going to be overly deep, so you can typically retrieve it fairly well. And doing so is not going to place yourself or loved ones in danger, unlike down here where there tends to be alligators. The bad news is that chlorine in the swimming pools does bad things to our boats. Primarily, the biggest one in my experience is that it affects RC signal, radio transmission through water. So a little bit, and I've gone over this in the past, but for those of you that aren't aware of it, basically fresh water actually conducts radio waves exceptionally well. I have in my past life, when I was living in Victoria, run in exceptionally clear freshwater ponds where I could see straight down to the bottom like 30 feet, and I could maintain radio contact with my boat all the way down to the bottom and back up without issue. The range that you'll get with your submarine is a function of a couple of things. It's a function of how far away it is from you and how deep it is. The further away it is, the shallower you're going to be before you lose signal. So if you're standing right over your boat, you're going to be able to get quite deep. But if it's 100 feet out, you're probably not going to be able to. And that has a lot to do with the interface, the air-water interface. The radio signals tend to skip off the surface of the water at that angle, just like skipping a stone. But back to the topic at hand. When you start introducing contaminants to water, it begins to severely affect the way that radio waves can propagate through the water. So this can range everything from biological matter like algae, could be minerals, and it can be chemicals. So that is the reason that in high concentrations, such as salt water, when you have a mineral dissolved in water, you can only get a couple of inches down before you lose radio signal with your boat. Chlorine is going to do the exact same thing. It severely affects the range that you can operate your boat in. For example, when I get my pond clean, or my pool cleaned, when they top up the chlorine levels a little bit too much, there's been times I've lost signal 4 feet down, standing only 10 feet away from my boat. So you need to very closely monitor the chlorine levels in whatever swimming pool you're going to be operating in order to ensure that you're going to be able to maintain control of your RC submarine. A lot of people will actually coordinate with the pools in advance to understand when they do their servicing, when they do their chemical refresh. And they'll do it just before that, because obviously that chlorine basically evaporates out of the pool, and the chlorine levels are going to be lowest at that point before they top it up. So that'll be the optimal time to run your RC submarine. So watch for radio control in your swimming pool. That's going to be probably your biggest issue. Now, depending on the paints that you utilize on your submarine, I've had some people say that it affects over a long period of time the paint finish. Now, I've never personally experienced it. It could be that the concentration of chlorine in the pools that I've been operating in just wasn't high enough to affect the paint finish. But I have not experienced that firsthand. And to be quite honest, a lot of people get very worked up over how waterproof your boat is, how chemically stable your boat is. Guys, you need to remember that for the most part, the amount of time your boat actually spends in the water compared to the time it spends out of the water is pretty dang small. So people are like, well, this kind of epoxy, it softens if you leave it in the water for like 6 months. Well, probably, but are you going to leave your sub in the water for 6 months? I'm just saying. So it's the same sort of thing with the paint finishes. And obviously, if anybody else in the crowd here has more experience than I do about that, please feel free to chime in and share your infinite wisdom with the rest of the group. But I wouldn't be overly concerned about it. Most of the industrial commercial enamels and paints that you can get right now are pretty stable. So that is just something to think about. There's a question there from the RC Jet dude. Is the big Nautilus still produced? No, it has not been produced for like 10 years. So if you want one and you manage to find one, buy it, no matter what the price is, because you will never, ever, ever find another one of these kits. There's some people that obviously scratch build it, but those big Nautilus kits were put out by Custom Replicas, whom I was partnered with back in the day. We had a marketing partnership with them, and they stopped producing. So it's unfortunate. They've gone away, but never fear. A few of you know I've got a 48-inch Nautilus kit that's going to be coming out. It's not quite as big as the 66, but in my mind, equally impressive on and under the water, and it is way more portable than a 6-foot-long Nautilus. So there you go. So that was the pools, chlorine, etc. question from Maury. Let me just see. I think I had seen. Oh, question. Would you consider yourself more of a modeler or an RC guy? I probably modeler. I'm going to say modeler. Only because, there's people out there with infinitely more knowledge than I do about the intricacies of you know, RC radios and you know, paints and adhesives and all of that stuff. I know enough to be dangerous, and it tends to put out fairly good quality products, but what I love is having the creative flexibility to make something look really, really cool and not necessarily have to worry about the functional aspect, but I enjoy that too. You know, how do you make something work, not just make it look good? So I would say probably modeler first, RC guy second, but you know, we're talking about pretty big volumes here. I had counted a little while ago, and I was at 43 operational RC submarines. So yeah, that's a lot. What about the steampunk fish sub? Steampunk fish sub. Are you talking about my brass bass? It looks like a bass. That was a display model that was put together. It's based off of the terror fish from an Anderson TV series back from the 60s, I think. It was before my time. But I modified it and turned it into a steampunk sub. Customer, by the way, submitted some photos to me of his steampunk-esque submarine, and I put that in the customer build section of my website. If any of you guys have an RC submarine that you just want to share with the world because it is so epically awesome that you just can't wait to do that, send me the pictures along with the description. I will post it up and we'll share it with the world. Let's see here. Howie at VLF frequencies, you copy the broadcast and that is somebody who knows a lot about radio transmissions. That's VLF, very low frequency, for those of you that don't know, showing off my infinite knowledge about submarines right now. Obviously, our radios do not transmit on that, like ULF frequency. We, again, for those of you that don't know, hobby frequency here in North America for surface craft, 75 megahertz band. 72 megahertz was reserved for aircraft, but of course everybody now is doing gigahertz, which screws us over because now they're not making 75 megahertz equipment anymore. I've got a limited stock of 75 megahertz radios. Once those are gone, we are going to need to whip out plan B, whatever that might be. So if you're thinking about jumping into RC submarines, grab a radio, at least grab a radio, because then you'll have full diving capability and the ability to control it while you are submerged. Yeah, our 75 megahertz harder to find for sure. All right. Oh, somebody asked about paints. Right. So, you know, I would say the vast majority of people use like Rattlecan paints from your local hardware store. You know, Krylon and Rust-Oleum are probably two of the more popular ones out there, and I've utilized both with, you know, fairly good results. If you really start talking about professional, long-lasting paint finishes, really, you're going to want to take a look at more like automotive finishes, like a two-part epoxy paints and that kind of thing, so that you get the durability in the boats. You can probably paint the boat with almost anything that you want. It's that last coat that's going to be the most important. So that clear coat is going to be vitally important. If you head over to the forums on my website, there's an individual who happens to be hanging out here. I can see him lurking out behind everybody over there by the name of David Merriman, who is a professional model maker and has been for the vast majority of his career, and he's got extensive threads on those forums about almost anything that you can think of, including painting and weathering your models. So that is a great place to hang out. It's forums.rc-sub.com. The link is on my website. Be sure to head over there and check it out. If you have not signed up, there's a ton of stuff that you are missing out on. So head out there, check it out, soak it all in and absorb the awesomeness. Let's see here. Does 72 megahertz airplane frequencies work? Absolutely, and technically they work this much better than 75 megahertz in North America, but it's illegal. Technically speaking, if you're caught, they can confiscate your radio and your model, and that would be bad. So you don't want that to happen. 75 megahertz is legal here in North America, 40 megahertz in Europe, and I believe in Australia. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I am not going to endorse the utilization of frequencies outside the appropriate bands, and I'm going to leave it at that. They will work, but I am not going to endorse their use. Okay. So we talked about paint. Awesome. There was a question a little bit earlier on from somebody who emailed me about battery packs. Gosh, and I've gone into these 36 megahertz. I did not know that. Thank you very much, Mitch. 36. I have not heard of that one before. So battery packs. If you've got a big, this is my personal opinion, if you've got a big boat, run a sealed lead acid battery. There is no reason that you can't just throw a massive, nasty, big, ugly, let me get this here, sealed lead acid battery. They're dirt cheap, hold great power, good power, not massive concentration of it. But the thing about the big boats is you need ballast anyway. And rather than loading up the keel with lead shot, you might as well use a gigantic battery for your ballast. So for large scale boats, if you've got the room, this is probably only 1.25 inches tall. You can get your cylinder up on top of it. This would be a great alternative. And then all you need to do is have a waterproof connection that runs into your watertight cylinder. Nickel metal hydride is good. They're fairly stable, a well-proven battery technology. They don't have as high energy density as the new lithium polymer batteries or lithium ion batteries, but they're much more stable, at least for now. I have successfully run those in the past in the wet, and I'll grab you an example. So I did not put this particular battery pack together, but one of my customers did, and I ended up with it. But this is a link of C-cell nickel metal hydride batteries all joined together and then heat shrinked, completely waterproofed. The ends are all epoxied, and then he's got waterproof boots on the end. So this is a completely waterproof nickel metal hydride battery pack. I think this is a 3 amp, 4 amp battery pack. So that works good. Lithium does not like water, so I wouldn't recommend throwing that in the wet, even if you do seal it up. So that's why everybody puts them in the battery compartment of a subdriver. So new chargers, new batteries, they're very stable. I've only had one incident with a lithium polymer battery, and it was utilizing a cheap Chinese battery charger, and it overcharged and exploded or caught fire, did this little like shooty flamey thing all over my garage. Modern batteries are very safe, easy to use, so I would recommend lithium polymer if you've got the room inside your watertight cylinder. From an energy density perspective, that's probably the way that you're going to want to go. And you don't need to invest in like the super expensive like 60C discharge batteries, designed for drones. Our subs just sip at the power. Those drones will suck a battery dry in like 3 minutes. So these subs will go 30, 40 minutes on a battery. So you do not need to buy the ultra super expensive high capacities, super high energy discharge batteries, unless you really want to. It doesn't hurt anything, I suppose. Let's see here. Matthew wanted to know what the favorite part of model building was and what project did I like the most. Oh, you know, I built a 32nd scale German Type 7 submarine a few years ago for a gentleman up in Port Angeles. And that turned out to be a really cool project because there was a lot of technical problem solving exercises that I ended up going through. The entire hull is huge. It's like 80 some odd or 70 some odd inches in length, but I made it in such a manner that it could be broken into 3 sections. So that needed to be engineered. Had operational torpedoes. It had an operational sound system. It had operational lights. It was very cool. If you're interested, again, check out my video section of my website. Cool story about that. I had a friend of mine, Al, came out to help me video that boat out by the pond out behind my house here, and he brought his drone, his very expensive like $3,000 drone, to video it. And he also brought his Gato class submarine. So that was out in the pond, and the Type 7 was in the pond, and he was flying his drone out chasing my boat. And what ended up happening is he forgot which remote control that he was using and dunked his drone in the water. So it was hovering there, and he grabbed the wrong remote. Down it went into the water. And I've never seen anybody move so fast as he did to dive into the water and retrieve that poor drone from the bottom of the pond. Yeah, that was fun. All right, I think I caught most of the comments in here. Just a quick comment, Roger, if you got comments specifically for another individual, keep them off my channel. Let's keep it clear. RC sub stuff pertaining to the hobby. Cool. That, I think, took care of the 2 people that reached out to me in advance. So I'm going to open it up right now for questions from anybody in the audience. And just to let you know, this is pretty awesome. 52 people. This is the highest number of people that I've had for one of my live chats. So thank you very much for joining me. It's cool to have an audience. With 54 people, surely somebody has a question about RC submarines, and we can chat about it now, not only with my background and knowledge, but we've got some pretty influential and knowledgeable people online right now that'll be able to help us out too. So I'll give just a couple of minutes for questions. If nothing comes up, I'll cut it off. Modifications needed to make the ARC Type 7 rudder. So yeah, Eric, that's a nasty problem with the instructions for the ARC model boat. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the ARC model is one of the kits that I offer. It's a 48 scale Type 7 boat. Actually one of my favorite kits to put together. It's really, really well done. Goes together exceptionally well. Everything's all rigged up for RC right out of the gate. It's got stainless shafts and all the control surfaces and brass bushings for the interfaces and stainless hardware. It's all very, very cool. But the problem is they don't include any of the horns, the linkage horns in the back for the rudders. So I ended up having to manufacture my own linkage horns to go on the ends of those control shafts. What I have done, for those of you that aren't aware of it, I came out with a new product line. I've actually got sintered nylon linkage horns that secure to standard wheel collars. Let me see if I can find one. Here we go. So this is kind of what they look like. Let's see how close we can get. It's not going to focus. Okay, anyhow, trust me, it's sintered plastic, really strong. So just a standard, little wheel collar that goes inside. So really high quality, high tolerance, but that allows you to slip it onto any 1/8 inch or 16th inch shaft and cut them to whatever length you want, and you can manufacture the linkage from there. So that's probably what I'd recommend. Just use 2 on the one shaft, 1 on the other, connect them with a rod, and away you go. I will be doing, by the way, I've got 2 ARC Model Type 7 builds queued up, and I'll be doing full build-up videos on those. One of them is like super everything you can think of, lights and torpedoes and all that, and the other one is just a straight kind of out-of-the-box sort of build. So if you're thinking about it, grab the kit, grab the stuff, stand by. You can follow along as I build my boat from start to finish. Let's see here. How does the blower type ballast control work? Blower type ballast control. I'm going to assume that you're talking about like an air-based ballast system, like a low pressure blower. I've got a full description of that on the resources section of my website under model submarine technology. But that's the system that the Big Type 21 is going to use. So it's basically low pressure air. So the idea is that your ballast tank is full of air. You open up a vent, all the air leaves, it fills with water, and then you suck air from the surface and blow it into the tank to displace the water. The best and only way for that to work is if you ballast your boat slightly positively, so that at any given time it will return to the surface, and you can pump the ballast tank out, back up it goes. That's why this is a hybrid system that's got the gas subsystem that allows full static diving capabilities, just a little burp of gas to get it positive, and then you use the blower to get it back up to the surface. So they got their 36-inch Sea View. I'd like to motorize for surface drive. What's the best drivetrain? So if you're going to do surface, you're going to be looking for, I'm going to say, I'm trying to remember, and Dave can chime in here. I can't remember if it's a 2 or 2.5 inch. I'm pretty sure it's a 2.5 inch sub driver. But we've got something called an easy driver. So that takes away all of the ballast system, and it just creates a watertight housing for everything. So you've got your pre-assembled motor, bulkhead, linkage seals, everything is all in there, and you just throw the battery in and basically you're ready to go. So that's what I would recommend for RCing that Sea View. I'm assuming you're talking about the 39-inch Mobius model Sea View. Yeah, that's a beautiful little boat. Let's see here. Just put my RC shop together. How do I organize it? What organizational tool can you not do without? Okay, cool question. So let's back up here. This is my main work area right here, and this is my garage. I've got another shop where I'm going to be doing all of my production, and I'll go into that, a little bit later. But the big thing is being organized. All of the tools that you use on a regular basis, these are like my core tools, right here that I use all the time. Everything needs to be readily accessible. I've got 2 Dremel tools, which is nothing compared to Dave Merriman, who has something like 10. Hanging there, I've got a cordless version and a corded version. All of the bits for them are right here, ready to go. All of my glues and adhesives I keep right out on the corner there. And then this is just my little equipment turntable. And these are all my little hand tools that the little files and tweezers and knives and compasses and magnets and mini pliers and pencils that I use, on a regular basis. So that's the biggest thing. And then for production, I keep all my power tools in their own little kind of subsection over here, which helps to isolate all the dirtiness, such as that nastiness right there. And then of course what you need to do is be be organized. You know, small parts bins are your friend. These need to be well organized so that you can find things. And over the years, it's gotten all sorts of nasty and messy for me, unfortunately. But I don't know if that answered your question or not, but just be organized. You know, think about the tools that you use the most, keep them close at hand. You need to just think through it. Think through your typical tasks, what you need, and keep them close by. That's my advice to you. 2-inch, there you go. 2-inch subdriver. I'm interested in starting to just assemble and paint something like a 32nd scale World War II sub. So if you're talking about 32nd scale, there's really only OTW that I know of that are manufacturing kits in that scale. There's a few other manufacturers in Europe that are doing 48 scale. But really they're kind of the only game in town, and they like 32nd scale. So they've actually got quite a few different subs. They've got a Type 2, they've got a Type 7. And then they've got some from some other fleets as well. They've got a 48th scale Surcouf, you know, by the way, if you're interested in that. Let's see here. That's not a 2014 Range Rover in the background. That's a 2008. Just saying. I just keep it in such good shape you thought it was new. 3D printed end caps. Do you recommend doing it? I have never had a problem with it. People are like, oh, it's PLA plastic. It'll melt into goo. Baloney. They're fine. 3D printed end caps are perfectly fine. You can print in ABS. You can print in PLA. I've never had any problem with either of them. It's easier to hold tolerance with PLA, but ABS is more durable. So there you go. Question, how do you handle the odd modeling bits? Oh my gosh. So bins. Here's some of them. Like this is one of my couple bins. These are all LED lights, and I keep everything in little baggies, you know, and they're all labeled so I know what's in them and what the voltages are. I am a pack rat though too. I'm like, oh, I might need that one day. But bins. See, like I got bins. I've got air pumps, miscellaneous electronics, receivers, and then over here I got, oh my gosh, more pumps, servos. What the heck are these? Switches. Oh, those are receivers. Speed controllers. My gosh, everything. You know, I started getting organized at one time, but bins and shelves, Lexan tubing, do what works for you, man. Get lots of bins, get lots of bags. That's all I can say. It'll save you so much time in the future. Let's see here. How many subs I've built? What does this say? You could build off of spares. Well, I mean, I could probably fabricate a lot of watertight cylinders. I'll say that. I could build a lot of watertight cylinders, but gosh, in terms of hulls, I'm going to say probably at any given time I've got like 10 projects sitting in the rafters at any given time, but most of those will end up getting sold to people so they can take over them. You know, really I'm just trying to facilitate the hobby. That's what I'm here for. I'm trying to make it easier for people to get into the RC submarine world, and we can kind of leave it with this. But the mission behind the Nautilus dry docks is to make the information around the RC submarine world more accessible and approachable by people. You know, my build videos, it's amazing how many people buy a kit after I do the build videos because they watch it and say, I can do that. The problem with our hobby is it's so tiny that there's really not enough players out there to invest in professional grade products with 100-page instruction manuals and customer help desks and all of that stuff that we've all kind of come to expect and count on in our day-to-day lives. When you venture into the world of RC submarines, you're really on your own. Here's your kit, here's the stuff, best of luck. Trying to take away as much of that as possible. I email probably between 15 and 25 people per day with questions about RC submarines, and I just help them. That's the time that I take out. They're not buying anything from me, they're just curious about it. So that's what I am after. Like I said, I'm doing it full time now, so hopefully you're going to see lots more videos and other resources to make this world a little bit more approachable and easy for people to get into. This has been a great session. I'm going to need to cut it off here, though. Queue up those questions, bob@rc-sub.com. Send those out to me in advance. I would love to delve deeper into these next session. They happen every month, about the same time of the month. They occur, I put the dates, I should say, on the front page of my website. Hey, next session, blah, 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 come sign in, mark your calendars, etc., etc. So watch for the homepage. Date will change. Put it in your calendar, and we will talk more subs. Maybe we'll... you know what we'll do, Dave? Get your nice clothes on and comb your hair. Maybe we'll do a YouTube live right from Groton, Connecticut, with some of the characters who end up showing up there. But we'll see what we can do. Thanks, everyone. This is Bob Martin, the RC sub guy with the NautilusDryDocks.com. Thanks for joining me yet again. Appreciate all your support. Have a great night. We will catch you next time.